Okay, welcome back to the Friday Night Life podcast. Thanks again for joining us. We have Chris and Carol Roll with us in this episode, all the way out in Itasca, Illinois. And we're so grateful for Chris and Carol Roll coming all this to talk a little football and family. And we got together. Our relationship actually started before this podcast. Yeah. And so, Carol, I'm gonna send it over to Corrine and let you guys just kick this thing off and have you guys tell us how you guys met.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Kara, you and I met on a Facebook community, right, online, Friday Night Wives Behind the Lines. And I think it's kind of funny and interesting because of all the interviewees we've had so far, Chris has known all of them. And this is the first one where I actually know you, and we introduced our husbands. So that's
right.
Kind of fun, huh? So, yeah.
I actually am wearing a Friday Night Wives shirt that says it's more, the one that says it's more than just a game. Because
I love it.
I feel like that's fitting for our conversation today.
Absolutely.
Nice.
I think it's great to have communities like that we can go to find support and encouragement. And that's exactly how we found each other, right? You had posted what had happened to your family this past football season. And boy, when I listened, I read your post, I was like, my heart just went out to you because I was feeling you. It was pretty much almost about the same time. And when you wrote your post, I immediately felt like I needed to connect with you. And so
it was crazy how things worked because I'm not a huge social media person, and I kind of just sat with our journey until our daughter's birthday is December 30th. And late that night, I was like, I'm gonna post this picture of, Chris and Peter. And it ended up being Chris's last game as head coach. And it was Peter's first varsity touchdown, our son. And I shared a short bit of my story, and I got a ton of comments back, one of which was this beautiful one from you, Corrine. And then you sent me a personal message as well, like a direct message. And then we just started from there, I think, just going back and forth and had this kindred spirit, like synergy that we just kind of developed from there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think also, too, the bond was both of our husbands' names are Chris. And then, so we had that. And then when you posted, it was pretty much the same thing. I'm like, wow. Yeah. So it is just nice to have that community where we can bond and find encouragement for each other when we go through something like that.
Tons of crazy parallels, starting with their names.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's so neat, Kara. This whole thing, this is kind of what kicked off this whole project of ours. Just doing this podcast, just wanting to connect and hear the hearts of, and for me, sharing, I would say misery loves company. It's not that, but sharing in stories, because we knew, Chris, you and I have known that we're not the only ones on this island, right? There are coaches, hundreds of coaches that have gone through what we've gone through, right? And but for Corrine, we never heard from the spouses. We never heard the emotion or what they were dealing with when they watched us go through what we went through. And so this has been on her heart for a long time. And then when you guys connected, it almost spearheaded this project for us, honestly. That was kind of like, she wanted to connect with you. She wanted to hear your story. And then we started talking about, why don't we just share stories? And because we're not alone on this journey, and we're not doing this by ourselves, and we're not the only coaching couple that has gone through this. So yeah, it was really, it's really
funny is every coach I talked to, which was mostly college coaches, because they go through it like yearly,
right?
Kind of, everyone asked about my wife. It was like, because they all knew, they're all like, well, how's your wife doing? And and when she found that Facebook site, I think it was the first time that she felt like she wasn't alone.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that was probably a pretty important moment, actually.
Yeah, I had lots of different hats on during just being coach's wife first, and then player's mom second, and then I'm a teacher at school as well. So, and when Chris was suspended, I was at school, not by myself, but he wasn't there with me, which he always has been. And, every day that I've worked there. And so it was crazy how that all bear down on me. I mean, I did feel like kind of nobody understood what was going on. And I don't know what took me so long to post and feel like I needed to share with the Friday Night Wives community, but luckily everybody there lifted me up. And again, like I wasn't alone, and found a real big compatriot in Creighton.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord for communities like that, Friday Night Wives, and just that their support. And that's hard. How did you deal with, because it was your son that was impacted as well, because your son Peter played for Chris, and how did you kind of have to navigate both of those feelings, because you're supporting your husband and your heart is going towards your husband, but then you've got your son too, who's dealing with this just on campus and all the rumors and everything. How did you navigate those feelings? And
he's a pretty stoic kid. He's very sensitive, but he guards his heart really, really tightly. And so the first day we came home, I said to him, I go, so did anybody say anything to you? Did anybody say anything dumb? And he goes, nobody, people know not to say anything stupid to me. Like, people know, just, they're not talking to me. Yeah. And we've found out since then that almost to a point where he felt a little bit alienated. Like, I mean, he didn't share that with us at the time, but that people didn't know what to say to him. And, teachers didn't know what to say, and the counselors and the admin, because it was Chris who was suspended and Chris who was in trouble, and everybody was kind of afraid to talk to us at all. I mean, our close friends checked in on me and checked in on Pete, but it was a tough time for all us in the building.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, Kristen, let's let the cat out of the bag now. So we're live talking about this, and people are probably speculating, okay, now what's going on with Chris? What happened? Why did this whole thing go?
When things happened, people had no idea what I did, and there was plenty of, but I'll do a quick version because I've been able to over the last year. I'm sure as you live. As you know, as a coach, like, getting the right people around the kids is what makes a team special. And I don't know about you, but like, all I worked on for 9 years was my staff. I kept feeling like I kept trying to get the right people and keep the right people and then replace the right people. And, not all of our coaches are in the building, just because, and I think you and I talked about that. It's just hard. It's hard to get a building full of teachers that also want to coach football. So anyway, I had a really, really good coach come back to me this summer. It was our defensive line coach, and had some health problems right when the season started. So we found a retired veteran coach that did not know whether or not he'd be able to jump in and fully help. But he was willing to kind of pop in and out and try, because he ran a business. His wife had dementia. He knew a bunch of the guys on my staff from a Catholic school they all coached at years ago. And I was game. And, something that people know or don't know about all us high school coaches, but, we're teachers, we're coaches, we're supposed to be HR, we're counselors, we're philosophers, you name it.
Yes.
So
sometimes we wear those hats at the same time, it's just
one on the other.
Yeah.
So over the past 20 some years I've been there, as coaches have come in and out, it's not a perfect system of processing them with their paperwork and everything. And that has been established my whole career there. And so as this guy started to stay on towards mid to the second half of the season, my athletic director finally was like, hey, if he's going to be here, we got to get him processed. I said, sure, gave all my information, introduced them. And then it's just the weeks just start passing because it's school. Right. And I kind of felt like I had handed over what I needed to, and it was up to the school to get the job done. Then our 8th game out of 9 finished, which is the one that she posted the picture of my son and I with. That week, it came forward that 29 years ago that he may or may not have been involved with an issue with a young girl. And it wasn't, I don't even know the level of seriousness of it, because it's all been expunged. But I have no idea, and I'm not going to, there's plenty of theories, but somehow the information came forward that week. The second I got it, I went to our athletic director. Athletic director went to the central office.
As a mandatory reporter should,
Yeah.
he mandatory reported
Yeah.
right away.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
came into my room and he was like, I gotta go. We have 2 campuses. He's like, I gotta go talk to our athletic director right now.
Yeah.
And the site I found was just a smear. It was like from 10 years ago, and it was just like a community blog where people just say whatever they want. So it wasn't even a factual thing, but it was clear that there was something there. By the next day, the school fired him. He was a volunteer. They fired him before they even allowed him a background check, just because of the rumors. And there wasn't a whole lot I felt like I could do to fight for him because I only had him for like 8 weeks. We won.
And I had never even met the man. Like, this is how little he was around the program, and I'm in the building. I'm around all the
and
time.
there was no.
Right.
There was,
it was one of those things. Like, I kept saying every week, I'm like, I have to meet
such
him.
a great guy.
Like, he'd talk about, oh my gosh, he's such a great guy. Like, he designed this defense for us last week, and this is what worked. And I was like, I still haven't met him. Like, it was just one of those weird.
And he, so he was 73 years old. Health. Not great health. So anyway, he was around a couple of days a week. The second everything happened, it was a casualty. I'm like, I'm not going to sit and fight this. Then I had 1 week left. He was angry because he felt like he should have been allowed to clear his name because he was, embarrassed or whatever. And I told him that it would only probably hurt me in the program. So he gave me a big hug and said, good luck. Thank you. And as that week went, it was our last game. It was a home game. And we had parent-teacher conferences on Thursday night. I woke up Friday morning, day of the game. We had parent-teacher conferences. And then at 11 a.m. that morning, my friend who's a union leader called me down to the front lobby. And like I told Kara, he texted me. He's like, hey, can you meet me in the lobby? And I mean, I was a union leader for 17 years. Wow. And I'm like, and I go, in my head, I'm about to get suspended. Like, I don't know why.
I always say God whispers in your ear.
Yeah.
Like, things, things just happen.
I went down there. It was a rough situation. I mean, basically, the administration got called out by a parent, said that they were going to go public. No one was ever threatened by this guy. It was purely a 29-year-old accusation. And yet the parent who came forward basically said they're going to go to the press if they don't do something about me. And they chose the easy route, suspended me from the game, which everyone told them not to do because in reality, it's every contract's a 1-year contract for a high school coach. We don't do multi-year contracts in Illinois.
Correct.
And all they had to do, no one was in danger. I could have coached the game. And then on Monday, they could have had a private meeting with me and said that they disliked the process that took place and they want to move a different direction. And there might have been some outcry, but it would not have been. They suspended me at noon. They notified everybody without telling them what I did. So all it said is that I was indefinitely suspended for accusations or something like that.
Not following.
No, it wasn't even that. It
was accusations.
People, that thing, so they sent it to our whole community and people took screenshots and they put it all over Snapchat and Instagram. And there were people that thought I touched a girl, I stole money. I mean, because no one knew what it meant.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it could have been anything at that point.
Yeah.
It's accusational.
Yes.
They sent an email communication to all the varsity players and parents, but they took Peter and me off of it. So, I mean, we found out from Chris, and then Pete's phone started blowing up.
From all
and he said he was like, why are they finding this out right now as I am? And luckily
he was only a sophomore on the team this year. He was playing up on.
So.
Our daughter was away at school, and I luckily was able to get a hold of her before all the screenshots got sent her way.
So I sat home that night, and first time in my life, and my wife went and watched Pete play. He had the game of his life. I mean, I'm very proud of him. My best friend who coached for me as a volunteer, took care of him. He's kind of his uncle. And they kind of both made a promise to each other. And then Pete said that's the last night he'll be in that uniform,
I mean, initially we're in our kitchen right now at our island. He was like, I'm not playing tonight. I'm not playing if my dad's not the coach. I mean, he was, and like I said, he guards himself pretty closely. He was a ball of volatile emotion. He's like, I'm not playing. But our friend Kevin scooped him up and mentored him and got him to, figure out where are you going to harness this? Like, where are you going to channel this anger? And are you going to use it?
And for our listeners too, Chris, you've been at that school, you said 9 years. So this was.
I was the head coach for 9 years. This is my 25th year at the school. So it was,
right. And
I attended it.
Yes. So that's what I was getting to, the history, not just you being there for 9 years, which is a long time. Your son who grew up watching his dad. He's growing up. He's ready now. This is his time. This was your time. Yep. You guys were going to have this great 2 years.
Yeah, he's third generation at the school. I mean,
my dad played for our school too. So like my brother. Wow. Yeah. So it was a pretty emotional night. To kind of get a quick ending, that Sunday I got suspended from teaching until the investigation was over, which was excessive. But then I also think because of the popularity of Kara and I in the district, in the building, I think it also kind of protected me in the long run, because then I didn't have to answer any questions with my students. It took 2 weeks. They interviewed every single member of my varsity staff. I was last. It's a 2.5-hour meeting, all kinds of accusations. And luckily, all my coaches did an amazing job. They were super, super honest and super, professional. And I mean, I got lots of compliments. It kind of killed me, Chris, because like, they're like, man, you have a great bunch of coaches. I'm like, no kidding. I'm like, and you're firing all of us.
Yes. Spent 9 years developing this staff, right?
So then after a 2-week investigation, it was in the Chicago newspapers, the Chicago Nightly News. It got other coaches fired that knew the cut. I mean, it was a huge Chicago scandal, which was really, really hard on our family. I had calls from the news every day that I was told I couldn't answer, and I didn't. They fired me as the coach. I kept my teaching job. And then 3 weeks later, I got suspended for a year of coaching in Illinois because there was a huge push against our administration for doing that to me. So they scraped up some emails, sent them to our state organization, and they gave me a recruiting violation for talking to parents. So
the emails were to, people who have coached for him over the years, friends of his, talking about their sons. And it was, I mean, to the untrained eye, it looked like recruiting, but
sure.
So that's the shortest version.
Well, that's silly for them to do that, because, you think about it, if you're friends with them, why wouldn't they want their sons to play for you? They trust you. They trust who you are as a coach and as a man. So, that's shame on them for even using that, because that was pretty.
Yeah, he wasn't allowed. He wasn't allowed to give context to that, I think, till the decision was already made.
Yeah.
So they talked to you after they made that decision, and then they asked you.
Yes.
About all of that after they had already suspended you, and then
it was a fight for public perception.
Okay.
And once they fired me, it got nasty in our community. It got nasty at the board meetings. They're very, and even in the building, the kids are very loyal to us. They've known us. I've known all the kids in our building since they were little, because they grew up with my son and my daughter.
Yes.
And I think that was their way of trying to pull some public perception back by, making me look like I was worse than even what people think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
But the recruiting violations, no one really talked to you about that. There was some emails that were found in relation to that. Is that right? They
were turned in by the parent.
By the same
parent.
Angry parent.
They're trying to build a argument against me, basically.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The angry parent had some issue, like some complaints last year too. So it was ongoing plight.
So how long were you, Chris? How long were you on campus again before after the football suspension? Then how long were you on campus again?
So we were back for 3 weeks, and the healing process was just kind of starting, because
like after Christmas break.
No, I got fired
November
9th. And then I think it was right when we got back from Thanksgiving break. Right.
Okay.
It was the week we got back
So maybe three.
So yeah,
weeks
so we
later.
got like Thanksgiving, like let's
Man.
move on. Like life has to move on at this point. And then my friend called me down, who was the assistant principal, closed the door, and he told me, and I lost it. I'm like,
Oh, man.
like, do you want to put my wife in a hospital? I'm
Yeah.
like,
yeah, right.
I'm like, so now I'm gonna go home and say this too, you know, because as we'll talk about, you know, I wanted to move on too, and then that opportunity was taken away. But
Sure. Well, Kara, where were you when the news broke about the suspension?
I didn't tell you right away.
Yeah, we were at parent-teacher conferences, and he told me that I was talking to my friend in the hallway in between meetings, and he walked by and just kind of nonchalantly said, "Hey, I gotta go down into the office for a meeting." And then he came back up, and I remember
We were done.
Yeah, he came back up to get his things, and he walked back by, and I go, "Is everything okay?" And he didn't even look at me. He just kind of just gave me a hand wave, like.
I said, "We'll talk when we get home."
And then I tried to call him. We had driven separately to school. I tried to call him all the way home, and he wasn't picking up. And I was leaving these messages like, "Okay, this is really worrying me." And then Pete was here at home, and so we stood around the island, and he told us, he's like, I'm not coaching tonight.
Man. Well, I remember similar. Kareem was in Costco.
I was in Costco.
She probably shared that with you. Yeah, I mean, it was of all places. I was sitting in there, and that's when I called. I had about 20 minutes to make a phone call there, and when they said that, I was like, okay, well, I'm calling. It was kind of like almost in my mind, I was playing like you get one phone call. I was like, where am I?
We're there.
One call. I got to make a decision.
This was right before your last game as well, correct?
It was. Yes, it was. The event happened on Wednesday. They brought me in on Thursday. We played Friday. It was a second league game. And
Kareen sent me video of them after your game because you were allowed to be at the game.
I didn't go to that game. So that Friday, we were at her parents' house, and I was getting text messages from friends and updates on the score. It was away, so it wasn't a home game.
Got it.
And then the following week, I think that was also away, so we didn't go to that one. We missed the first two games post suspension, and then I told her, I said, I can't miss any more because I chose to resign. I wasn't put on admin leave, so I could still be around the kids. I was still teaching. I was still on campus, so I made that decision. But I remember she was in Costco, and I remember telling her. I just resigned, I just resigned from, and she didn't know what to say. I mean, she was just quiet and couldn't believe it. So it was the shocking around that island moment. And then they have to go play a game without their head coach. So,
it was
very similar.
It was a little interesting because the boys were just great. They're just sweethearts. And that particular game, so it was the 2 weeks after, I wasn't going to go to the game. I really didn't want to go. There were people that I feel there are people there that I did not want to see because it just would have made me angry, and I didn't want to go there. And and I'm not a confrontational person that way. But so
I was going to sit in the visitor stands.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I was going to do that. I was like, wait, I need to be there for my son. Anyway.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. So. But thank God that I did go because Chris was one that was pushing me. He's like, go, do it. And I'm like, no. So, my best friend and her husband, her son played for Chris at the time. So they were there right next to me. And then we had some other dear friends that are in our Bible study at church. They decided to come just to support us because they knew we were going to be there. And I am so glad we did because that's when we caught that video of all the boys surrounding Chris. And it was just kind of their way of saying, Coach, you got a raw deal, but you're still our coach. And it was just great, and even my eyes are getting misty just thinking about it. It was just such a neat memory, and I'll always just hold that dear. But, it's so sad because at the end of the day, the players are the ones that suffer, not,
Completely. No.
For whatever reason, the admin and the district need to do what they do. And, to me, it's just kind of a cop-out, but they don't take into consideration the players. These boys now have to kind of rally and, you're really giving them the raw deal. How are they going to function and come out of this? And they did. Our boys did, and they're resilient and was great.
They won the game.
Yeah, they did. They won the game
Come
right
from behind
after.
victory, yeah.
Yeah.
It was the same thing, Chris. They could have. I think there's a lot of feelings about this thing too. But I could have coached the game, and then they could have said maybe on Saturday, let's talk, or even let me finish the season. I'd have been okay with that. And then they said, hey, we want to go a different direction. Okay, great. And then we'll talk about what that meant. But it happened so fast. I think that's what we both kind of. It was such a quick pull the Band-Aid off, and there wasn't even time to discuss it or talk about it. And that's where.
Well, when you talk
about
the boys, and that was probably the hardest thing for me is my relationships with the boys is what I was best at. We hadn't gotten over the top yet, and we really hadn't broken through. But I took care of the kids in the community that I grew up in, and they didn't get to say goodbye to me their last game. Some of them still haven't gotten to say goodbye to me because of COVID. I didn't get to, I didn't get to go to the awards night, which made it was such a sensitive thing that it's very difficult because there was zero ending to the whole thing. It was so quick. And then they treated me a little bit like a leper because of the hot topic, how hot everything was. And I think it was best in their mind to keep me away from everything, but that's a really hard thing to do to kids.
Right.
So,
right.
I agree.
And not even taking consideration that your son's on the team,
Yeah,
So,
that too.
if we're really thinking about kids, how's his mental state about this whole thing? Did they even talk to him? Were they even discussing with him? Probably not. And, that's the hard part for you guys to see that going through that because of your history, because of your legacy at the school and your son being right there watching this whole thing. That had to be tough. Our kids are 11, so they were very frustrated. They knew, they were 10 at the time, but they were, they're very aware and they knew, and they were upset and angry and the whole thing. But not even close, Chris and Kara, to maybe what Peter was thinking and feeling, suiting up with Dad, being there with you, Chris. And I can't even imagine, even now, I'm sure it's kind of time is helping, but it's going to be hard. He's going to be a junior. He still has 2 years left, and well,
he was our ball boy for 6 years, and a couple of years of actually holding up the signs. So, I really, he was such a part of the fiber of, like, my daughter was our manager, so yeah, it's hard to finally get to this point, and now, we're doing a great job with change because we have to. Because we believe in, what we're doing as a family.
I don't know if you felt like this, but it was like COVID. It was like, this isn't phasing us at all. Like our lives have already been like.
Honestly, I agree with you. I think for us, we always felt like, just kind of like what you said, we felt like we were on an island and all eyes were on us. And then when COVID happened, I just kind of felt like it was a nice just break.
Yeah,
from just
it was like a break.
Drama.
Yeah.
It was, and then and just like you said, what it does is it made us take our eyes off of our own selves,
right?
Because then you're seeing people dying, and people are, there are people that are quarantined. And we're like, we have our health, we have our family, and we can move on. With God, all things are possible, and we're going to move on through this. And, but yeah, it's still hurtful. Right. And,
sure.
But yeah. So,
so getting it back, and we'll get into COVID too, because I know we'll talk about the state of Illinois, Chris, and you can kind of fill us in on, what's going to be happening with high school football coming up. But let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about the Roll family a little bit. Let's go back to when Chris and Kara met. Let's talk about maybe how your lives started and take us through how the Roll family came to be.
We met in 1992, October. We were set up for a dance, so basically a blind date at Indiana University.
Yeah.
He was a walk-on. I was a little sorority girl, and
my best friend from college had a girl that he had grown up with that was Kara's friend, and we both wanted to go to a dance. We were 19 years old.
Yeah.
And we went, we dated for that fall, and then kind of went our separate ways for about a year. And then by the second semester of our junior year of college, we've been together since.
That was that.
I love it.
I played my 4 years of football at Indiana. Coach Mallory was my coach there. He's a legendary coach in the Big Ten. He offered to get me a GA job. She was going to get a master's in genetic counseling. So I told him, no, I want to coach high school so that I can follow her. We left college engaged.
Yeah.
You went to Northwestern.
Yeah. And
I came home. I never thought, honestly, I told my parents, I'm like, I'm going to go wherever Kara goes. And she went to Northwestern. I came home 2 years later. I got hired by Lake Park. She worked for a hospital.
Yeah, I worked for University of Chicago for better part of a year, and I was commuting 2 hours a day. I'm like, how's this going to work for the family? I saw my mom's a retired teacher. He's like, I saw how rewarded they were in their professions. I'm like, I'm just going to give this a try, and I've never looked back.
Yeah.
So it was my second career. So.
Yeah. So
wonderful.
she got her teaching degree, and then Lake Park, she was a fairly desirable candidate with her background. And we got lucky that she got hired at Lake Park. And then a couple years after that, she got her first year of teaching, she got pregnant.
I found out the day after I finished student teaching that I was pregnant with Kate.
Oh, wow.
So there's this little tiny 26-year-old carrying this baby in her first year of teaching.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Kate's 19. She's going to be a sophomore at Michigan State.
Wonderful.
She applied to Indiana, I think, as a courtesy to us. She just always wanted to go to Michigan State. And Peter's going to be a junior. And
she works for the football team at Michigan State.
She does.
Yeah, so I had two of my players starting there, two brothers. Now one's playing for the Las Vegas Raiders, and the other one is a senior.
Yeah.
So Kate knew all the coaches from recruiting. They all got fired. Mark D'Antonio resigned, and then his staff got fired. And so she's working for the new staff, but now that's kind of up for grabs because people don't know, this fall.
Who's going to be able to be in the office?
Yeah, they don't even know if they're going to bring in student helpers,
Yeah. What was she doing? Or what is she doing for the program?
It's called student operations.
Yeah.
So it's funny. She's 5'4", like 100. She's a little bitty thing. And she's in charge of working sideline security before games.
Yeah.
And keeping Michigan State basketball players like back off the sidelines. And
she wants to potentially she might want to work for college football programs. So she's built some network a little bit with some of the females that have jobs because college and pro football are really trying to get women more involved.
These new positions popping up called directors of on-campus recruiting, and a lot of them are young females. And she's connected with the woman that got hired at Michigan State, and they've gotten along really well.
And she connected her with the Iowa girl after we visited with my son for a recruiting visit, and then I connected her with the Wisconsin one. So it looks like it's becoming a place where they know that women can. It's a full-time. It's a coach. It's a full-time job.
Wonderful.
So we'll see. Sure. That's kind of a dream job for her, but she also has other ideas.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's like the legacy of football keeps going on in the Roll family. That's great.
I think my parents roll their eyes because they're like, "Why is it what is with football?" Like everybody, but it's in her blood. Like
I have to say that after all and I know Chris, you've done it. All the help that we've done for kids, trying to help them to get to college, find the right place. Some get scholarships. Some just have to find the right school. It was pretty cool to watch people help my kid. It was like to have my daughter benefit by other people. Like really, Mark D'Antonio was the head coach of Michigan State. And after all these visits here and the relationship we built, he took my daughter aside and said, if you come here, you're going to work for me. And it was pretty cool. So
wow.
That's great.
Wow.
That's great.
That is really good.
Yeah.
Now, and then you have Peter, right?
Yes.
Peter,
yes.
And how old is he? Because I know he's going to be.
He's 16. He's going to be a junior.
Going to be a junior. Okay.
He's her. We've got my daughter and I have the same personality, and my son and my wife too. It's a weird mix.
Now,
he's,
I gotta ask, Kara, did you grow up in a football family? Like your home? Was your dad watch football?
I grew up in Indiana, so basketball, I mean, really before Peyton Manning came to the Colts, football was really not a thing. And truly before Bill Mallory came to Indiana University, it was not a big thing. Basketball is king. My brother played football, and he's 3 grades younger than I am, and he played up as a sophomore. My mom just found a letter that said, I want to come home and surprise Drew. And so, I mean, we had football in our family, but it wasn't,
my dad played at Northwestern for Eric Parsegian, and left his scholarship back in the 60s to start a family because it was a different era.
Okay.
So, I mean, my dad was for my brother and I have an older brother. He was a really good person to help us through figuring out what's best for us. And, that's what I'm doing for Pete now, because I'm not his coach anymore. So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Pete's at Lake Park. He's going to finish up at Lake Park.
No, he is leaving.
Okay, he's moving.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, we
didn't get to do that. So
he said he wasn't going to play for Lake Park anymore after that game.
So we had a small Catholic school by us that had won 6 straight state championships, which is like or 7.
4A or 5A or
they were small,
smaller division.
So they won 7 straight state championships, which I think is our state record. Nice. And the school's gone now; it closed. So a bunch of my coaches were from there because they were close by, and they're just guys I got to know. The old head coach from there started a program at Nazareth Academy in Illinois, and 14 years later now they're nationally ranked. They've been to state 4 out of 5 years. Their quarterback right now is going to Michigan, except he just left and went to IMG in Florida for his senior year because he didn't want to lose a year of football. So
and they're playing in the fall. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Pete, one of my former players went there, and Pete knows him, and then I know the head coach really well, and the head coach reached out to me. He's older than I am. I've known him since I was in my teens, and he's like, hey, I'm sure you got the same thing. Everybody was reaching out to us because the coaching community is a fraternity, Yeah. And Tim Rackey's an amazing guy, and he's one of the best coaches Illinois has ever had. And he's like, hey, whatever I could do for you. And I'm like, well, Tim, I'm going to call you in about a week. I think my son's going to come there, and I'll coach for you, And then when my suspension kicked in, we just focused on Pete. He wanted to finish the year at Lake Park because he's basketball and track.
Okay.
And he's a very good student, and he didn't want to have to mess up his class load. So this summer he's been with the Nazareth kids the whole summer, and he's going to transfer to the private school this fall. So for his last 2 years.
Okay.
We're still finalizing details, but
we still have to get everything approved by our state.
I mean, he's enrolled on our end, like he's going there, but
we just have to finalize all the transfer stuff. So
now are they starting up right away, school, or are they also holding off until winter?
For football?
Football and school.
Well, school right now is all still being interpreted. Our school as well as his school are both doing like a hybrid model where the kids are in and out, but the teachers are there. And then football wise, we'll find out Wednesday is the day, I guess, finally, where the state of Illinois is going to make an announcement. I think because of you guys, because of California, and because of the big schools in Texas.
New York did too, right?
I don't know. Because of this Chicago area, in the Midwest, there's not very many areas that are equal to Chicago. And because of the size of California and Texas, I think, to be honest with you, I just think we're going to end up going in the spring like you guys. So
okay, and that's coming this Wednesday. So when this episode airs on Tuesday,
you could put a little tag on it.
Hopefully, we'll have some answers, or we just get put off another week, or it changes again. It's crazy times.
That is the only concern I have. Is I think it's great that everyone's trying to get football on the ground for kids.
Yes.
Worry about starting a season and stopping it and starting it and stopping it. I think there's some value to waiting. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And how's Peter doing and some of the guys that are chomping at the bit? I mean, how are they doing? Are they staying active and staying working out and running and all that good stuff?
So I have a lot of friends because I've been a head coach a long time. During all of the quarantine this spring, I hooked him up with one of my former coaches that was a college strength coach. Nice. And he ran with him. And then when the summer started, he started lifting with his Nazareth teammates at a gym that was like following all the regulations.
Okay.
And the good news is it's been little to no football this summer. The good news, though, is he's gained like 10 pounds. He really has completely transformed, and he looks really good. So actually, like, in some ways, he's never been this healthy because he usually plays all his sports.
Yeah, 3 in a row.
Nagging tendonitis from basketball and track.
And long jumping. So he actually physically and mentally, he's really ready to go. It's just going to be hard to wait.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Chris has been recording, like, because they can't go to one-day camps. He's been recording him. He recorded him in May.
I did my own one-day camp with him and sent it to all the college coaches. They loved it because they need that stuff. Yes. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it this week. And, he's only a sophomore, but his recruiting is doing pretty well. It's just they got to see him play.
Like, he took a picture of him in a doorway. So you could see, like, sitting and, like, he saw his feet stepping on the scale and then panned up to see, like, it's actually him on the scale. Like, so they were –
there was no quick cuts in there, right?
Correct. Exactly.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, that is. It's been –
well, Chris, what do you just in talking about coaching and like we talked about, we're hoping that, well, I guess we didn't talk about this right on air. We didn't talk about the nature of your suspension, right? So let's go back to that. So it was a 1-year deal.
Yeah, it said the way it read is that I had a 1-year, ours is called the IHSA. So I have a 1-year IHSA suspension of any coaching. So, I used to coach basketball, I used to coach baseball, but obviously as a head coach, most of us are only able to do one. I know some people do it. I think it's amazing. But so I kind of, I just kind of stepped back and I'm like, this is going to be all about Peter at his new school, and I'm going to be a parent. We started talking about, like, I'm going to go out to a 4:30 dinner with my wife and then go, like, sit in the stands. And, it's a private school. They probably tailgate. But anyway, So it was supposed to be a 1-year suspension, which then would allow me to be part of my son's senior year, which we both felt really good about, that his last year that we'd be on the field together again, obviously, as I'd be an assistant. Yes. And Tim Rackey's got a loaded staff and a loaded program. I'm like, dude, I will help with special teams. I'll be an assistant wide receiver coach. I just love to be around kids, So with everything up for grabs, as I was talking to you about before, there is this crazy, like, chance that if football's in the spring, then my penalty's over and then I'm coaching this year, and I'm not going to argue with that if that happens. So.
You bet.
Yeah.
That's what we're hoping for. Absolutely.
Yeah. Say a prayer.
Yeah, we are. We're hoping.
A little selfish, but we got to be a little bit these days, right?
Absolutely. Let's hold to the letter of the law. November 9, November 14?
Yeah.
What was the actual date?
Yeah. November 9th, I think, yeah.
Well, hopefully that they just do right by you, your family. They understand who you are, your legacy, and what you've done for Indiana high school football, and say you're back, and maybe that spring, whenever Illinois starts up again, man, you're on that field. That'd be awesome, Chris.
And in what position are you coaching this year?
Quarterbacks. So I actually hooked up with my first head coach coming out of college. When I started at Ayala High School, he was the head coach, Mark Pascarella. He's up at Altaloma High School, which is about a half hour away. And so I was just wanted to hook up with somebody kind of outside the district. I had all the contacts in the district, but I kind of said, no, not this year. I'm going to take a year off from the district, get outside. So Mark was actually looking. He needed some help. And so I started with him back in 94, circled back 35 years later, and he's wrapping up. He's got a son that's going to be a junior, and he's going to go for 2 more years, and then he's going to retire. He's going to step away. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. So I'm going to help him out and just do quarterbacks and enjoy it.
That's awesome. You're going to enjoy it. too. You know you will. There's a little bit of you that just, there's nothing wrong with stepping back.
Right. It's been a grind. I mean, I've been a head coach 15 years, and so that grind is going to slow way down. And just I've been Zooming. I have Zoom meetings with just my quarterbacks, and there's been 4 of them, and with some coaches. So it's been even just in the meetings. I feel like I need to be doing something else here, but I'm just focused on the quarterbacks, and I like it. It's kind of a breath of fresh air. Really just go back to basics and get back to coaching a position like how I started and what I've been doing most of my career. So yeah, it's going to be fun. And so hopefully, however that looks. Now, I'm still teaching at Chino Hills. I'm still going to be on campus. We're going into a distance learning model, so completely hands off, right, of school and kids on campus. So I don't know. We're still working out the details here in Southern California about how we're going to be able to practice, if in fact we're going to be able to practice. So it's going to be very interesting the next few months of just really not doing any football at all.
I know. It's unbelievable, isn't it? After the lives, I mean, same thing, like the lives we've all lived for 20-some years, and
like the frenzy that I would normally be feeling right now,
there's nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, late summer, getting ready for fall ball, and here we go. Yeah.
Well, I think Chris does like 95% of our cooking. So it's when he's coaching in the fall, it's like I'm in season because then I have to cook.
There you go. Well, we're going to have to do your specialties.
I'm very
Chris.
lucky.
Yeah, we'll have to get your specialties, Chris. You have to.
I'm a son of an Italian mother, so I've got plenty of them. So
let's go.
Nice. Well, I just feel like holidays aren't going to be the same because everything kind of sort of Halloween and Thanksgiving. It's like all the different games that play on Thanksgiving Day, and it's just going to be so weird. Well, I don't know. NFL still, what are they doing? I don't even know. They changed their mind too.
Have you guys had playoff games around Halloween?
That's right at the end of the
season. Your season.
Yeah, it's right at the end of the regular season. So that would probably be game 10 for us.
Okay.
We get into the playoffs 1st of November.
Okay.
We play our finals in Thanksgiving.
We've got a 9-game season. And so some of the years, I'm just thinking back when you're talking about Halloween, like the years that I had to rush the kids through trick-or-treating before the Friday night football game, or there was one year we had a playoff game and it was like on the road, and we gave all the players Halloween candy so that the kids could go up and down at the hotel room and trick-or-treat.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
That's our favorite child.
Yeah, that's Sparty.
Oh, hey. Look at that face.
How are we doing?
The roll. Oh,
this is here real quick. He's about to leave. This is Peter Roll.
Hi, Peter. How you doing, Peter?
Nice
to meet
you
guys.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you. It's good to see you, and I wish you all the best, man. In this junior campaign. It's gonna be a good one.
All right, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, a handsome boy right there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, and just talking about legacy, Chris, and you're definitely a legacy, and that's not a word I throw around loosely. I mean, just you having played and coached at your alma mater for all these years, and knowing, and I know it's the dream job, right? I would have to assume that you were going to be here for the next 20 years, right? Or at least till your son graduates and then reevaluate. But this was it. This was the job for you. And we're seeing that more and more, that those coaches that can't spend that time at one school, whether they've got the bug and they want to move on, or they use high school as either a launching point for something else, or they just get tired of one school and they need a change of scenery, whatever the case may be. Did you know, I guess, and going back, I mean, playing for your high school though, but at what point did you know you were going to circle back and be the head coach at Lake Park?
Like I said earlier, when I left, I expected to be anywhere. I mean, we really talked.
When you left IU.
When we left IU, I kind of wondered what part of the country we'd live in. And I was game for that. And then when we came to Chicago, I was ready to do something different. So my first couple of years, I was looking wherever she was going to work. I was going to, go somewhere new. And then my old coach, Dr. Quinn, he was our principal when I got hired. He was my quarterback coach, and he heavily recruited me to come home. And I think he's the one that kind of like put it in my head. And then the second I came home, I'm like, well, if I'm coming home, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stick here. I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
So I just committed. I'm like, I'm going to wait here. I had a great staff to work for. We had some great seasons, and I waited for my chance. And I mean, you know, I probably could have had a couple chances. I could have jumped to college or went to a different school, but I felt really good about just helping the kids in the community I grew up in. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? Why don't more coaches like you? Why aren't there more coaches like you out there? I guess that's why don't coaches stick around at the same high school anymore? What are some of your favorites?
I think, I mean, I know where you're going with this because it's true, but I think the burnout rate for coaches right now, well, first of all, it's why they do it. So I've always said you either coach because you have an ego or you coach because you love it. And I think you need to have an ego to do it. But if you do it for yourself, you can't last because there's so much that comes with it. And there's so much you have to deal with. There's the parents, the politics, the administration, the rules, the conference. You know, we've moved 3 conferences in 5 years, and we play at the highest level in our state. But I kept, every time something happened, I was the positive guy, and I don't know how many people can stay positive with every change. And I think I think a lot of people. I'm going to be honest with you too, but it's the wives, and I'm not ripping on other people's wives. I just think it takes a special wife to enjoy this.
Yep.
And I don't think every coach has the advantage of having wives that love football as much. I know you guys don't want to hear everything, but you do such a great job of listening. I mean, like the offenses, the defenses, the scouting reports, like.
Yeah.
We do, don't we, Kara?
Yeah, we do.
And I think the coaches that burn out, I think they're the ones that probably don't have the same support in their family, or that they maybe aren't doing it for the same reasons, you know?
Good point. Absolutely. Yeah. Home base is critical.
This is a different spin on what you're asking, I think, but he had, who was it that said to you when, like, really in our current climate with just how things change so quickly with social media and just our news cycle, that probably coaches shouldn't be.
Oh yeah. So you might have heard this, Chris, but like, you know, so when Mark D'Antonio, when he resigned at Michigan State, you know, it was his 13th year there, and he got into some trouble a couple years ago because some of the players got in trouble, and of course that reflects on the coach.
Right.
And a couple of the guys I knew at other schools that were friends with him and his staff are like, hey, we've heard, like, if you hit 10 years at a school these days, you got to move. And this is college, because at some point, it doesn't matter how successful or how good of a person you are, you stack up enemies and expectations just keep going up. And it's really hard to have people look back at all the good things you've done and keep honoring you for it. Really what they start doing is just stacking up all the things that they have problems with you on. And then when you get to restart, you get that second chance over and over again. And some people say that the cycle in college is like 5 to 7 years now, because at that point, every single thing a kid's ever done, ESPN, you know, all that kind of stuff, it's just really hard on coaches. It's like a pressure cooker.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's what I think too, is I think, you know, for high school coaches, I believe they get into it for all the right reasons. They love the kids, they love the sport, they played, they were impacted. But I think they don't, and I think some of them that want the Friday Night Lights don't understand everything else that comes with it. And for everything you just said about college, Chris, there is a certain microcosm in the high school world, which we both found out, that can be something they don't want to deal with. They don't want to have those tough conversations with parents or kids or administration for whatever reason.
Or get to know 10 and 11 and 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds, you know? And like, I mean, that was like one of my favorite parts, is getting to know the young kids in our community. There's coaches that care less about that, you know?
Right. Yeah. Building a community, going through the youth camps and trying to build those relationships with those youth programs is huge. And, you know, I think a lot of coaches just love the the limelight. They love the Friday Night Lights. They love play calling. They love all the other stuff. But when right? And that's the draw. But once you get in that seat and you put that hat on, if you don't have a thick skin or a support system or both, and just a strong faith in who you are as a man or woman, whatever sport you're coaching, you could be in trouble. And it could be like,
how many people know until you're a head coach? I've talked to people about this. Like, you get your butt kicked one night and it's bad. Like mid-game, it's going to be a bad night. And like, how many people know what to say after? I mean, like, think about those nights. Like,
how are you going to spend that?
I sit there, that game ends, I shake hands, and I'm like, all right, like, because tomorrow starts another week. So tonight I got to put something in their head to let them believe that everything's going to be okay, Yes. And those moments aren't fun either,
No. Right. Having to do those tough interviews and, and then, or stand up in front of your booster meeting and replay the game or replay what's going on, and you gotta answer those tough questions too. But we're seeing it in Southern California a lot. We're seeing a lot of the
turnover.
The turnover rate is high. The coaches,
here too now.
Yeah, they're leaving, they're retiring, or passing away. And that's hard to see. And even in the league I was in recently, I was the highest tenured coach at 2 years because there was a turnover in the coaching staffs in the league I was in. And so it's hard. And we're trying to hold those coaches. We're trying to get hold of those coaches. And talk with them too, because we love hearing those stories. And that's important. It's more than just calling the X's and O's and drawing the playbooks and doing all that stuff. Anybody can do that. I think but managing guys, finding the staff, Chris, you put a premium on that. So did I. And I was going on year 4 with the guys that I had brought in, and we were loving it. We were rolling, and the kids that were going to be seniors were our kids this year. And, it was really starting to happen. And for better, for worse, you try to manage all of that, and that can be hard. That could be a difficult task.
Well, and you and I talked about it the first time, and then you and I are gone now, and there's kids that specifically either were waiting for their moment to play for us or moved to be part of something that they believed in, and now I can't feel bad because it wasn't my choice. But there's families that moved here to play for me, and now they're going to a school hoping that everything's going to be okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And amongst what we're going through, this pandemic, they haven't gotten to know their coaches yet.
No.
I feel bad for all the new coaches, college, high school. We talked to a defensive coordinator, Cesar Rivas, who was at Azusa Pacific, who's now in Florida. He got the job, had one spring practice, and he had to shut it down. All these brand new coaches, wherever they're at, man, it's got to be hard. You do this. That's hard.
My that's at Michigan State, that's a senior, the brother that's left. He met the defensive coordinator for the first time face-to-face last week.
Wow.
Because they got hired before spring practice, and then it never happened. And then they got quarantined, and then, and then. So like his first face-to-face was almost in August with his new defensive coordinator, It's crazy.
Yeah,
oh my goodness. Yeah.
And I think another thing too, that, just from an outsider perspective, both of you are coaches, so you're feeling that as far as the turnover of coaches. But just as a wife, I see that I think a lot of coaches, and I think to some degree parents and players, just like you said, now they move because they want to play for coaches like you both. Yeah. And it's deeper than that. People can call it recruiting, you can call it whatever you want, but the bottom line is this is America, and we have the freedom to choose who we want our kids to play for. And if we choose to have our kids play for someone who is honorable and coaches with integrity, then that should be our prerogative. But speaking also into that is in kind of shifting the thought a little bit was, I feel like there's a lack of trust. Coaches cannot trust districts to keep them. And I think that now what's happening is a lot of parents and players are there's a lack of trust in the fact that, is our coach going to be around? I don't know. Who cares anymore? Whatever. There's just this lack of trust that I feel like is being just kind of there. And I don't know, Kara, do you kind of see that a little bit? For me, it's disheartening, I think, as a mom, because Peter, is your son, and he's also a player, that's really disheartening, I feel like. And I don't know why no one says anything about that. So I felt like I needed to share that.
Well, it's true. It's, it's the old adage, tomorrow is promised to no one. Pete's a rising junior. And so he's starting to think about, like, where does he want to go to school? And he's starting to have a couple conversations with colleges. And it's like, you can't necessarily, you got to think about the college where you want to go, because those coaches, for whatever circumstances, might not be there in 3 years. And it's crazy to think about. You can't bank on that.
Yeah. With after my incident, we had a really good community of, I was really good friends with our baseball coach. I grew up with the head coach's sister, and his assistant's my best friend. That's who took care of Peter that night. The basketball coaches knew him, and I built a good relationship. The track coach played for me, and I taught him. And we really, we had this, the second I got fired for what I got fired for, there was an immediate feeling of why should we put a teacher in a building can teach and go home and take no extra chances, or they could try to help with extracurriculars. Well, if the extracurricular can get them fired from teaching, is it going to discourage people from even trying it? And the answer is actually yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great question.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Well, and I think that at any of those times, those coaches were also saying, well, am I going to get fired? And the sad thing is that both of you, listening to your story, Chris, and what we're sharing, and then Chris, your story too, you didn't do anything, but they got rid of you. And I think that's what's so hard, is because, growing up, when we grew up, it's like we knew we were going to play for this coach. When I went to my high school, that coach had been there and he retired there. So we all knew, my brother was going to play for him. He was going to be a Chino Cowboy and was going to play for Coach Munger. And so it's just, because there was a legacy there that was being built. And legacies take time. And being able to establish what both of you done, a community takes time. It takes years building trust. And I feel that there really is if the amount of turnover that's happening, there really is no trust being established in the first place. And
you knew that an administration was going to fight for their coaches. And in our society, with litigation and with the press, it's very difficult right now to win publicly. So the administration just takes the easy route most of the time. So
yes, So it's disheartening.
I mean, and so in this moment of pause, or in this state of pause, what have you guys been able to catch up on? What's been the biggest blessing for the Roll family during this state of just kind of being at home?
I was going to start. I had a different answer than Chris. He can do his answer. I was going to talk about. College students are not supposed to have a summer break that goes from March to September.
Right.
But having the extra time with the four of us, and just
knowing that they're older,
we're getting to know them as friends now, in addition to them being our children. Like, we're getting to see them as adults, and we've had to especially when we were quarantined and nobody was going anywhere, we had these amazing, profound conversations with our kids, just separately and together, and just this rich experience that we never would have had. I mean, not to call COVID a blessing at all, but there's, like you said earlier, Corrine, a silver lining. And Chris said at one point, I was real frustrated. He's like, "You're not going to get this time back," and it's true.
Yeah,
it's just been precious time with them.
Our daughter, she'll never be here this long again. Unless she lives here and when she works after college.
And we've told her she can't. So
once you're out, you're out.
We'll see if we stick to that.
One thing that is shocking. I haven't slept as much as I've slept. Like, I go to bed at night, I read, and I close my eyes and I go to bed because there's no pad of paper next to my bed to write things on. I'm not watching anything at the last second. I'm not listening. My brain has quieted, which I've been told is going to happen. And I've been told by some very good people that it's a very positive thing. Like, it's good to have, like you said, Chris, 15 years straight of that grind. There's nothing healthy about that. It's just what you love to do. And so my brain's been quiet, but her and I have gotten to know each other better over the last 5 months.
Yeah, right.
I kind of surprised her. She loves the mountains. So we last week I took her to Montana. We went by glacier and just spent 4 nights in the mountains, just the 2 of us, which we've never done since we had kids. And that was a gift. So it was like the most. I mean, I know they call it God's country, but there's no doubt when you get there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you see his hand out there in that world.
Yeah. So that was a positive. How about you guys?
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, focusing on this, the podcast and the new venture here has been great.
Cool thing you guys are doing. What a
cool
venture.
We're jealous in a good way. What a great idea.
We thought about writing a book, and we were like, this would be way not easier, but it's like
more interactive.
Just to talk and get feedback and stuff. This is a great idea.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, but get going on that book.
Yes.
We'll have you back on.
Yeah, we will. We did do one thing, and it's because of tonight, but I started a Facebook group of all my former players from my 9 years as a head coach. Because Bill Mallory did that with us in Indiana. He had a website called the Mallory Men for the 5 colleges he coached at. And when I interviewed for my head coaching job, I was able to reach out to him, and he called me and sent me a recommendation. And he just took care of us because he was retired. And so I thought the minimal thing I could do is take care of the 9 years of kids that I was in charge of. And so her and I started that together. I mean, they all knew her. She was always with me, as you know. And so for the first 9 Sundays, I posted our highlight film from the 9 years, and then I have the kids commenting below it. And actually, I'm probably gonna post something about this eventually. But it's been kind of cool to reconnect with some of my former players, and I think that's been a really cool thing.
I sit and cry every Sunday night watching the highlight videos.
Oh, yes.
That's a great idea.
That's a wonderful idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And it's, you know what? It's because it's a Facebook group. It's private, which is what I wanted. But I'm going to post, I told them, if you guys need help getting a job, I have my coaches on there too. We'll connect you with people. If you're having issues with life, just reach out, and it was just a place where we can all meet virtually. So that was a neat thing we did.
That's very
wonderful.
cool.
And you connect with them. Is it live too, or you just post stuff
we will eventually, but right now her and I posted a video of what we wanted it to be. And then I'm doing these, and I'm going to do favorite games of the last 9 years and let the kids vote. I'll do we have a lot of little nuances. And I think the first year it'll all be memories just to get everyone there. And then I think after that, I hope it to be more interactive and helping each other.
Like networking.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That's very
That
cool.
is a great idea. That's a great idea. Thank you for that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, we're gonna wrap up our time here. We can't thank you enough.
Great.
Appreciate you guys and your stories and your heart, and just being a part of our little project here too. So.
And you know what, you talk about your paths, and this would never have happened had the tragedy of the fall not happened to you guys. So
exactly. And that was something that a lot of people, we got a lot of good counsel from all, friends, family, and they all said, this is very hurtful, but there's nothing that God doesn't know. That's not, that he doesn't know that's going to happen. And not to say it's God ordained, but, it was in his will. And we will see what unfolds from this. And I think we already are through this podcast.
Yes.
Chris would never have had the time to have sat down and done this. So what you were saying was, you're getting to know each other. We're getting to know each other even more just on how to work together, because we've got this podcast and he does this and this, that. And so, it's been really neat. It's been a blessing. So,
thanks for letting us be a part of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we met. So thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.